back to Crimson Tide Today. I'm your host, Zack Aitken. As Alabama gets closer to the 2026 season, the excitement continues to build around this football team. Fall camp is underway, position battles are heating up, and there's plenty of storylines that could shape what kind of season the Crimson Tide ultimately has. Today, we're diving into another big Alabama football discussion and breaking down what it can mean for the football team moving forward. But before we get started, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join the conversation in the comments below. Now let's go ahead and kick off the opening drive. So I want to kick off today's show with another great question from listener Jake. He said, I would love to hear your overall confidence in the running back room and who's the player that you think will be the lead back. So overall, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about this group. Now, I don't think this is a room that is loaded with proven stars just yet, but I do think Alabama has a nice mix of size, speed, youth, and potential in this running back room. There's several talented backs on this roster, and I think this could end up being one of the deeper position groups on the entire team. If I had to pick one player to lead the room, I think obviously my choice right now would be Daniel Hill. He's entering a very important year in his development, and I think he has all the tools to become Alabama's top running back. At around 6'1", and he's reportedly dropped some weight. He's somewhere around 235 pounds, and he brings a physical presence that Alabama's always loved at that position. He's a powerful runner who can wear down defenses as games go along, but he's also athletic enough to create explosive plays when he gets into the second level. What stands out to me about Hill is that he seems built to handle a larger workload. Alabama is going to need someone who can consistently carry the football between the tackles, pick up the tough yards, and help take the pressure off the quarterback. I think Hill is the best candidate for that role as of now heading into the 2026 season. And behind him, I think the battle for the RB2 spot is going to be one of the more interesting competitions into fall camp. AK Deer and EJ Crowell are the two names that immediately pop out to me. Deer, he has a lot of talent and he brings a different style to the position. He's more of a classic one cut back. He's got good vision and he has the ability to make defenders miss in space. Every time you watch him, I mean, you can just see why Alabama was so excited about him when he came out of high school. But then there's EJ Crowell, and he was one of the more highly touted running back recruits that Alabama has signed in recent years. Crowell, he has the size, the speed, and the overall skill set needed to become a star in this offense. He missed some time during the spring, but if he's healthy heading into the season, I'd be expecting him to be pushing for meaningful carries right away at the beginning of the year. I also wouldn't be surprised if the competition between Deer and Crowell lasts throughout the season. I feel like both players have a lot of upsides and both have a legitimate chance to become a major contributor on the team. But you also have guys like Kevin Riley and Trayshawn Brown. They're going to be competing for opportunities as well. That's just what makes me confident about this room as a whole. Alabama doesn't just have one or two options. There are several backs that could carve out a role depending on how the season unfolds. Now, one thing I don't expect is I don't see a repeat of like Eddie Lacy and TJ Yeldon when they had two running backs for over 1,000 yards in the same season. That was back in 2012. College football, it's changed a lot since then. Teams are rotating backs more frequently, and quarterbacks are more involved in the running game, and offensive touches are just spread across more players than ever before. I think Alabama also has enough talent in this room where I think the carries are just going to be divided a little bit more rather than just concentrating on one or two players. My overall confidence level, I would probably put it around 7.8 or 7.9 out of 10. I think Daniel Hill, he's going to emerge as the lead back, and I think AK Deer and EJ Crowell battle for that number two role. Kevin Riley and Trayshawn Brown, they're going to be providing quality depth and can be competing for touches, but there may not be a proven superstar in this room today, but there's a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and plenty of reasons to believe Alabama's running game is going to be in good hands this season. So shout out to listener Jake for the great question. If you also have a great question or a topic you want covered, drop it down in the comments and we'll have it featured on a future episode. One of the biggest questions surrounding Alabama's season as we head into 2026 is which transfer portal additions are going to make the biggest impact. The Crimson Tide, they brought in several new faces this offseason, but when I look at this roster, the two players that stand out above the rest are Rayson Delgatti and Caleb Woodson. Let's start with Delgatti. When Alabama went into the portal, one of the biggest priorities was improving the offensive line depth and the experience. Delgatti, he checks both of those boxes. The former Cal Poly standout, he arrived in Tuscaloosa with plenty of starting experience, and he was considered one of the better interior linemen available into the portal. He chose Alabama over several major programs, and he immediately gave the Crimson Tide another veteran in presence up front. At 6'3" and a little over 300 pounds, he has the size and the physicality to compete in the SEC. Now, offensive linemen, they don't always get the headlines unless something goes wrong. They aren't, scoring touchdowns or making highlight reel plays, but if Alabama's going to reach its goals this season, the offensive line must take a step forward. Whether it's Daniel Hill, A.K. Deere, E.J. Carell, or another running back carrying the football, everything starts with these guys up front. If Delgatti can solidify one of those interior spots and bring consistency to the offensive line, his impact is going to be felt every single Saturday. Sometimes the most important transfers aren't the flashy ones. They're the players who help an offense stay on schedule, protect the quarterback, and create running lanes. I think that's why Delgatti has the chance to become one of Alabama's most valuable additions this year. Now let's switch over to the defensive side. Like I said, my pick here is Caleb Woodson, and honestly, this one feels pretty obvious. Alabama lost veterans like Deontay Lawson, Nikhai Hill-Green, and Justin Jefferson, and there was going to be a need, a leadership role, and that was very void at the linebacker position with these guys gone. The Tide, they needed someone who had played a lot of football and could step in immediately, a plug-and-play type of situation. That's exactly what Woodson's going to bring to this team. The Virginia Tech transfer arrives in Tuscaloosa with 152 career tackles, 11 and a half tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a pick during his time with the Hokies. He was a very productive player, a multiple year contributor, and someone who understands what it takes to play at a high level in college football. What I like most about Woodson, it's his versatility. He originally came to Virginia Tech as a defensive back, but he grew into a linebacker. Because of that background, he's very comfortable in space and he can help Alabama in coverage situations. That's becoming more important every year in college football. He's also a player who seems capable of becoming one of the leaders on the defense almost immediately. Alabama's coaches, they've already spoken positively about the veteran presence that he brings to the linebacker room during the spring. When I look at Alabama's defense in 2026, I think Woodson has the chance to be one of the most important players on the entire roster, not just among the transfers. So if I'm ranking the portal additions based on potential impact, my top two are going to be Racing Delgatti on offense and Caleb Woodson on defense. Delgatti, he has the opportunity to strengthen the offensive line, and that could determine just how far Alabama goes this offseason. Woodson, he has the experience, the production, and the leadership to stabilize a linebacker room that lost several key starters. Neither player may receive as much attention as the quarterbacks or the five-star freshmen, but by the end of the season, don't be surprised if we're talking about both as two of the more important additions that Alabama made during the offseason. So, obviously, one of the big storylines that Alabama has as it opens fall camp is the quarterback battle between Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. And honestly, this is the most important position battle on the entire roster. Since Ty Simpson moved on, Alabama's looking for its next starting quarterback, and right now appears to be a two-man race between Mack and Russell. As fall camp is getting underway, Kalen DeBoer has given Alabama fans some insight on what he's looking for from his next starting quarterback. One of the biggest traits that he emphasized is poise. That shouldn't be coming as a surprise, though. I mean, the quarterback position at Alabama, it comes with pressure every single week. The starter, he has to handle the packed stadiums, the hostile road environments, SEC defenses, and expectations that come with being the Alabama quarterback and competing for a national championship. DeBoer, he's not just looking for the quarterback with the strongest arm or the most athletic ability. He's looking for a player who stays calm when things aren't going according to plan. He's looking for someone who can make good decisions under pressure, keep the offense on schedule, and respond the right way when adversity hits. That's where this battle becomes so interesting. Let's start with Austin Mack. The biggest thing that Mack has working in his favor is his experience. He's entering his fourth year in DeBoer's offensive system, dating back from their time together at Washington, and that familiarity definitely matters. Mack knows the offense, he understands the terminology, and he spent years learning exactly what DeBoer wants from the quarterback position. When DeBoer talks about poise, it's easy to see why Mack remains a serious contender. He's been in this system, he's been through the college practices year after year, and he's had years to develop an understanding of what this coaching staff expects. But then on the flip side, there's Keelan Russell. Russell, he may have the highest ceiling of any quarterback on the roster. The former five-star recruit, he arrived in Tuscaloosa with tremendous expectations after a very decorated high school career. He has the arm talent, the anticipation, and the playmaking ability. Those are all very obvious. The question isn't whether Keelan Russell is talented enough. The question is whether he can show the same level of poise that DeBoer is looking for. Can he consistently make the right reads? Can he stay composed when defenses disguise their coverage? Can he respond when a drive goes off schedule? Those are the questions that are going to likely determine who wins this competition. And that's why I think this battle is going to remain close throughout fall camp. Mack, he offers experience and familiarity. But Russell, he offers elite upside and long-term potential. And ultimately, the winner may not be the quarterback with the flashiest highlights. It may be the quarterback who demonstrates the most poise, the most consistency, and the most trust when the lights come on. If the season started tomorrow, I do think Mac would have a slight edge just because of the experience with the system. But Russell's talent, it's going to make this a very difficult decision all the way through camp because I think there's just too much upside to have him on the sidelines, and I think he's going to be the starter come week one. Either way, Alabama appears to have two talented options competing for one of the most important jobs in all of college football. I want to have some fun and hear from you guys. Who do you have taking the snaps at quarterback this year? Is it going to be Austin Mack or is it going to be Keelan Russell? Post your answer down below in the comment section below. In today's player preview series, we're going to take a look at one of the players that could become one of the most important pieces on the Crimson Tide's offensive line in 2026. That player is offensive lineman Will Sanders. When you look at Alabama's roster heading into this season, the offensive line is the biggest area to watch in my opinion. The Crimson Tide, they have a lot of new faces up front, and finding that right combination of players, it's going to be one of the biggest keys to success for this offense. And one player who could be a major role is Will Sanders. Sanders, he's a native of Brookwood, Alabama, which is right outside of Tuscaloosa, and he was one of the top in-state offensive line prospects in the 2024 recruiting class. He was a four-star prospect according to the major recruiting services, and he was ranked among the top interior offensive linemen in the country. He chose Alabama over programs like LSU, NC State, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. One thing that stood out about Sanders during his recruitment process was his physical style of play. He's known as a powerful interior offensive lineman who played with a lot of toughness, and he's got a little bit of a mean streak to him. He wasn't necessarily the biggest name nationally when he was coming out of high school, but Alabama saw the traits they wanted in an offensive lineman. And that's something Alabama's always valued. The Crimson Tide, they have a long history of developing offensive linemen who are physical, technically sound, and dependable. Sanders, he currently stands at 6'3" and around 320 pounds, and that gives him the size and the strength needed to play in the SEC. When you watch Sanders play, the first thing that stands out is his ability to move defenders off the ball. This guy is a strong run blocker who plays with good leverage, and he uses his size well. He's also athletic enough to get out in space, pull across the formation, and contribute in different blocking schemes as well. That versatility, it can be very valuable for Alabama. Heading into the 2026 season, Sanders projects as one of the players competing for a starting role at left guard. Alabama has several guys battling for positions along the offensive line, but Sanders has put himself in a position to earn meaningful snaps. The biggest question for Sanders as he enters the season is going to be consistency. He has all the physical tools, he has the size, and he obviously has the toughness, but now it's about continuing to develop his technique and proving he can handle SEC defensive linemen every single week. The good news is that Sanders already has experience in Alabama's program. He played in all 15 games in Alabama's season last year and expanding his role on the offense while also contributing on special teams. That experience, it should help him leading into fall camp. If Sanders can take the next step, he could become one of the more underrated players on this Alabama team. Offensive linemen don't always get the attention of quarterbacks, receivers, or defensive playmakers, but they often determine how successful a team can be. For Alabama's offense to reach its potential in 2026, the offensive line must be reliable, and Will Sanders could be one of the players who helps make that happen. He may not be the most talked about player on the roster right now, but don't be surprised if by the end of the season, Alabama fans are talking about Will Sanders as one of the key pieces that helped make this offense take another step forward. So guys, that's going to do it for another episode of Crimson Tide today. I appreciate everyone tuning in and being part of the Alabama football conversation. With the 2026 season getting closer, there are so many questions to answer, position battles to watch, and players who are ready to make their mark. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an Alabama football content. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments as well. I want to know what you think. What storylines are you following the closest? Thanks again for watching Crimson Tide today, and until next time, roll Tide.